Imagine a world cloaked in darkness. Beneath the Renaissance's gilded surface, Europe was gripped by fear, sickness, and filth. Plagues swept through cities, lives ended in agony, and hope faded. But across the sea, a force of knowledge and culture was gathering, ready to bring a light that would forever change the continent. Out of this despair, a new dawn was about to break. It would not rise from London, Paris, or Rome. It would come from the south, from the vibrant lands of Africa. An army of scholars, scientists, and architects was on the move. They were known as the Moors, a powerful and sophisticated people whose civilization was a beacon of progress. While much of Europe languished in squalor, the Moors were building magnificent cities, studying the stars, and mastering the sciences. They possessed knowledge that seemed almost magical to the beleaguered Europeans. They understood the world in ways that had been long forgotten. Their arrival was not a quiet visit. In the year 711, a Moorish army led by the brilliant general Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the strait from Africa into Spain. The rock where they landed would forever bear his name, Gibraltar, the Rock of Tariq. This was not just a military conquest. It was the beginning of a cultural revolution. The Moors brought with them more than just soldiers. They brought architects who would build palaces of breathtaking beauty. They brought doctors who understood the true nature of disease. They brought astronomers who could map the heavens with stunning accuracy. They carried the seeds of a new golden age. The Moors saw a continent drowning in filth and knew the cause of its suffering. They understood that sickness thrived in uncleanliness. They knew that disease was not a divine punishment or a curse carried on bad air. They knew it was a physical enemy that could be fought and defeated. They possessed a deep understanding of chemistry, of acids and alkalis. They brought with them powerful cleaning agents like baking soda, ammonia, and lye. Simple things that could break down the grease and grime that harbored pestilence. They came to quite literally clean up Europe. This is the story they don't teach you in school. It is a dark, Gothic epic, but it is also a story of hope and renewal. It is the story of how a brilliant African civilization saved Europe from itself. They turned back the tide of disease, reignited the flame of learning, and laid the foundations for the very Renaissance that Europe would later claim as its own. This is the tale of the heroes from the south, the Moors, who brought light to a continent shrouded in shadow and in doing so changed the course of human history forever. Life in medieval Europe was a daily struggle against filth. Streets overflowed with waste and cries of Gardelou warned of chamber pots emptied from windows. Bathing was rare, dirt was seen as protection, and rats thrived in the squalor, spreading disease. Europe had forgotten the wisdom of the ancients, trapped in a cycle of ignorance and death. The Black Death crept into a world of filth and fear, sweeping across Europe like wildfire. Rich and poor, no one was spared. Its symptoms were nightmares, fever, black buboes, and swift, agonizing death. Entire towns emptied, families shattered. The dance of death echoed in a children's rhyme. Ring around the rosy, we all fall down. The Black Death was the most terrifying reaper, but not the only one. Smallpox and leprosy haunted medieval Europe, leaving scars, blindness, and isolation. Medicine was crude, and fear ruled the streets. The continent bled from within, society teetering on the edge of collapse. Across the Mediterranean, the Moors of North Africa thrived while Europe stagnated. A blend of Berbers and Arabs, united by Islamic culture, they built cities like Fez and Marrakesh into centers of learning and trade. Their libraries preserved and expanded upon Greek and Roman knowledge, while their scholars excelled in philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy. Moorish medicine was advanced, with practices like diagnosis, quarantine, and surgery centuries ahead of Europe. Their cities featured public baths, sewer systems, and aqueducts, making hygiene a daily priority. They developed soaps and cleaning agents, understanding the science behind cleanliness. The Moors saw Europe's squalor as a solvable problem, not a curse. Driven by knowledge and compassion, they looked north, ready to share their civilization. They were navigators, warriors, and scholars, prepared to bring enlightenment to a suffering continent. The Moors aimed not just to conquer, but to heal and build. Their golden age was a beacon of hope for a Europe lost in darkness. Soon, they would cross the sea, carrying the light of civilization with them. In 711 AD, Tariq ibn Ziyad led a Moorish army across the strait to Spain. His force, a mix of Berbers and Arabs, was united by faith and ambition. Upon landing, Tariq famously burned his ships. There would be no retreat. He inspired his men with a mission of destiny: triumph or perish. The landing site became known as Jabal al-Tariq, Gibraltar. The Visigothic kingdom, weakened by strife, underestimated the Moors. In a decisive battle, Tariq's smaller army shattered the Visigoths. King Roderick fell, and his kingdom collapsed. The Moors' victory opened the Iberian Peninsula to a new era. Waves of Moors followed, bringing not just soldiers, but scholars, engineers, and artisans. They came to build, not just rule. Spain and Portugal began transforming from warring backwaters into Europe's most advanced lands. The Moors' arrival marked the dawn of a cultural revolution. Their legacy would shape the continent for centuries. The Moors arrived as builders, not destroyers. They transformed ruined cities with advanced architecture and urban planning. Streets were paved, sidewalks elevated, and street lighting introduced. Córdoba became Europe's jewel, a metropolis of 500,000 with hundreds of mosques, schools, and public baths. Hygiene returned as a public virtue, with splendid bathhouses and clean water. The Moors revolutionized agriculture, introducing new crops and irrigation. Their palaces, like the Alhambra, showcased artistry and comfort unknown in Europe. Daily life improved with new fabrics, dyes, and leather goods. The Moors saw themselves as custodians of civilization, raising standards everywhere. They implanted a new way of life, one of learning, beauty, and order. Their work laid the foundation for Europe's recovery. Stone, science, and sanitation became the pillars of a new future. The Moors brought a secret weapon to Europe: chemistry. They saw filth and disease as problems with chemical solutions. Using alkaline substances, they launched an alchemical revolution against grime and pestilence. Baking soda, ammonia, lye, and potash became tools to neutralize and clean. These weren't just soaps, they were scientific weapons against disease. The Moors taught that specific agents could dissolve specific dirt, a concept foreign to Europeans. They introduced systematic cleaning of homes, clothes, and public spaces. This shift empowered people to fight disease actively, not passively. The arrival of these cleaning agents broke the cycle of sickness. The Moors replaced superstition with science, transforming daily life. Their chemical knowledge was the first step in reclaiming Europe from filth. The Moors preached a new gospel: soap and water. They challenged Europe's fear of bathing, making hygiene a cherished ritual. Public bathhouses or hammams flourished. Córdoba alone had over 300. These were grand centers of cleansing, socializing, and relaxation. The Moors perfected soap, combining oils and alkaline salts for effective cleaning. Bathing became a daily pleasure, not a sin. The impact was profound. Skin diseases and infections declined. Fresh clothes after bathing became the norm, introducing underwear to Europe. The Moors dismantled the foundations of pestilence, one bath at a time. Cleanliness led to healthier, longer lives. The culture of hygiene began to take root across the continent. The Moors' war on disease went beyond personal hygiene. They built Europe's first comprehensive sewer systems, carrying waste safely away. Regulations for waste disposal and street cleaning kept cities sanitary. Quarantine and clinical observation became standard medical practices. Moorish cities like Cordoba and Granada became beacons of health. Plagues that ravaged the rest of Europe were held at bay. Life expectancy rose and populations thrived. The Moors proved disease was not fate, but a foe to be conquered. By cleaning streets and purifying water, they dismantled the kingdom of disease. The stench of death faded, replaced by the scent of soap and gardens. Civilization flourished where science and hygiene prevailed. The Moors' greatest gift to Europe was the revitalization of the human mind. Into a world of superstition, they brought the light of science, revolutionizing medicine with observation, research, and care. Their hospitals, surgeries, and pharmacies set new standards, saving countless lives and inspiring a shift from fear to knowledge. They truly healed the European mind. But the Moors gifted Europe the language of the universe, mathematics. They introduced Arabic numerals, zero, and algebra, unlocking higher math and science. Moorish astronomers mapped the stars with precision, transforming Europe's understanding of the cosmos. Their knowledge powered the Renaissance and shaped the modern world. The Moors understood that a civilization's true wealth was not in gold, but in knowledge. While the rest of Europe had a mere handful of monastic libraries, jealously guarding a few dozen decaying manuscripts, the Moors built a magnificent public library system across Spain. These were not small, dusty rooms, but grand palaces of knowledge open to scholars and the public. Moorish Spain boasted more than 70 public libraries in the 10th and 11th centuries. The Library of Cordoba alone was a wonder of the world, a sprawling complex that housed an astonishing collection of over 600,000 hand-copied books, a number greater than all the books in the rest of Western Europe combined. These libraries were the beating heart of the new Golden Age. They were vibrant centers of intellectual exchange, where students and masters gathered to debate philosophy, translate ancient texts, and pursue new avenues of research. The Moors embarked on a monumental project to preserve the wisdom of the ancient world. They painstakingly translated the lost works of Greek masters like Aristotle, Plato, and Ptolemy from Greek into Arabic, saving them from being lost to history forever. It was through these Arabic translations, preserved in Moorish libraries, that Europe would later rediscover its own classical heritage, sparking the intellectual fires of the Renaissance. Alongside these libraries, the Moors established Europe's first true universities. While Europe's two fledgling institutions were little more than religious schools, the Moors founded 17 great universities in cities like Cordoba, Seville, and Granada. These were modern institutions of higher learning, with faculties dedicated to medicine, mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and law. They attracted students from all over the known world, including a steady stream of curious scholars from England and France. These European students sat at the feet of Moorish intellectuals, absorbing the advanced knowledge that they would then carry back to their own benighted homelands, planting the seeds of a new intellectual awakening. This incredible infrastructure of learning, the libraries, the universities, the culture of scholarship, formed the bedrock of the European Renaissance. The Moors did not just give Europe facts and figures, they gave it the very institutions and intellectual curiosity required for a civilization to progress. They built a bridge across the Dark Ages, a bridge made of paper, ink, and stone, over which the treasures of the classical world and the brilliance of Islamic science could travel into the heart of a waiting Europe. They proved that the greatest and most enduring empire is one built not of land, but of ideas. The Moors in Europe did more than build libraries. They transformed society, creating a vibrant crucible of cultures in Al-Andalus. Muslims, Christians, and Jews coexisted, sharing knowledge and trade. This blend of peoples and ideas shaped a unique, resilient culture, laying the groundwork for a more open and interconnected Europe. The Renaissance is often seen as a sudden Italian miracle, but its true dawn began in Moorish Spain. Moorish scholars brought art, science, and knowledge to Europe, laying the foundation for Florence and Rome's brilliance. The Moors were the unacknowledged architects of Europe's rebirth. The Moors brought a borrowed light to Europe, transforming a continent lost in darkness with science, healing, and knowledge. Their expulsion was a tragic act of cultural vandalism, but their legacy endures. It lives on in Spain's architecture, science, and even the music we hear today. The echo of Al-Andalus is a golden age whose light can never be fully extinguished.